Okay, day 2, we're talking about logarithmic functions and their graphs. I've got a whole lot of information on day 2's notes. You need to look them over. You need to refresh your memory about all the changes in logarithmic to exponentials, the properties of logarithmics. You need to refresh your memory in that log base b1 is equal to 0, log base bb is equal to 1, log base b to the y is y, b log b to the x is x. You need to know those properties to be able to solve equations. Here I gave you a bunch of examples that you can read. Okay, and then we're going to do exploration number 1. And it says, now I can't get this all in one screen, so I'm going to have to be moving it around some. It says set your calculator to parametric mode. So we're going to go to mode, set it in par. It also says to set it in simultaneous graphing, so we'll set it in simultaneous mode. Then we will go to y equals. And we have x1t is, and that should be a t. That was a typo, so that should be a t. y1t should be 2 to the power of t. x2t should be 2 to the power of t, and y2t should be t. Alright, if you want to, we can graph that. Whoops, I need to set my back to normal. Okay. Now it says we're going to create a table. So we're going to table start at -3, and change in table will be 1. And then let's see what we get here. Didn't tell us how to set our graph, did it? So I'm going to hit zoom 0. Oh, on this we're not using the graph anyway. We're just using the table, correct? Alright, so we're starting at -3 because that's where our table starts. And at -3, y is 0.125. And if we scroll over to x1, we've got 0.125, which is the same as 1/8, and that gives me -3. Okay, scroll back to x1, and I have -2, and so that's 0.25. Scroll over to x2, and that gives me 0.25, which is the same as 1/4, and that gives me -2. I'm going to do one more. Scroll over to x1, it gives me -1 and 0.5. Well, 1/2 is 0.5. If I scroll over to x2, it gives me 0.5 and -1. So now I should be able to fill out the table, because if I have 0 here, the x values of the log function have been the y values. So this would be 1, 2, 4, and 8. And the x values here have been the y values of the log function. So this would be 0, 1, 2, and 3. And all this was to show you that they are definitely inverses of each other, because the x became the y and the y became the x. And if they change places like that, then they are inverses of each other. Now it says to draw the graph, so we're going to go into window, and it says set minimum at -6, so we'll set the t minimum at -6. We'll set the t max at 6. We'll set the t-step at 0.5. The x and y should be -6 and 6. And the y should be -4 and 4. And then we can graph that. And there you see that here we have the exponential and here we have the logarithmic. Okay? And that's all they wanted you to see, is those two. Now, we're going to get out of parametric mode and back into function mode. Back into function mode, and then we'll take this back into sequential. And at y equals, we're going to put 2 to the x power. You cannot put the inverse of log in here because that would be log base 2 of x. So what you have to do is do a second draw, and we'll do draw inverse, and we'll put 2 to the x in there, and then graph. And then you'll see how there's the exponential to the x, and its inverse should be coming enter. Now it should be coming. Now there it is. So we have inverses of each other. Logarithmics and exponentials are inverses of each other. Okay, so that was part 1 of day 2.